All right, so I'm going to talk about Star Trek Picard. Star Trek Picard, the series on CBS All Access. CBS, right? Yeah. And I was waiting for Star Trek Picard to wrap up so I can just binge the whole thing. And I'm really glad I did, because if I watched this week to week, that would have kind of driven me nuts, especially since it goes through 3 episodes before they get into space. But I'm going to give you a spoiler warning right here. I'm just going to talk about spoilers. I mean, sometimes I might, by habit, try to keep it vague. But in the end, if you haven't watched Star Trek Picard, I'm about to spoil a lot of stuff for you. So, only if you care. Stick around if you've watched it or you don't care. All right, so now the spoiler warning's done. so that Mass Effect show. Who saw that coming? So Star Trek Picard picks up 20 years after the last time we saw Picard. That would be Star Trek Nemesis, probably my least favorite of the Next Generation movies, which is funny because when it came out, I thought it was so metal. Then I rewatched the Next Generation movies recently because I've been binging the series as well, again, because I love that show. And I was like, yeah, Nemesis is my least favorite. So Nemesis is canon. So is the supernova that wiped out Romulus in the Abrams movie. Abrams movie's canon. I mean, not that this is the alternate timeline, because this is still on the original timeline. This is in the future. The Abrams movies are still in the Biff alternate timeline. Point is, we now run into a Picard who has left Starfleet because it's not Starfleet anymore. Which he's right. Starfleet's pretty much like S.H.I.E.L.D., where S.H.I.E.L.D. was invaded by Hydra, and everyone's dicks now. It's kind of like that. It feels like that. But this girl shows up, and she's an android, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna help you because you have Data's code in your head. And she gets blown up. So he's on the search for her twin. Now he gets a new crew, a ship, and they're basically following breadcrumbs. It's a mystery, which is actually really fitting since Data was a huge Sherlock Holmes fan. I actually appreciate that about this show, the fact that it's not just, oh, space adventure and firefights. Take a ship, take the Enterprise, park it over a planet, and then have the scenario play out, and then give us a life lesson at the end, and sweet Star Trek. I don't need the space adventure firefight. This actually doesn't try to be a space adventure firefight, it tries to be a mystery, which one of my favorite old school Star Trek movies is a mystery, Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. It's like things I enjoyed are in this show and things that made me go, it's all right, what I liked. Like I said, I like the fact that there is a mystery going on, though the mystery isn't really it's not an unveiling of information as you would think it should be. I mean, they follow breadcrumbs, that's for sure, but it's like, I think it was episode 7 or 8, I can't remember which, all in one conversation. It's like there's this round table of exposition plot vomit. They're like, okay, here's everything you need to know. And it comes at you so fast, your head spins. I had to watch it like 2 or 3 times. I was like, okay, so how are the androids? And what was okay, oh, he shot 2 other, wait, there were emissary? What? It just felt like it came at 100 miles an hour. I'm still trying to talk about things I liked, but hey, we're just kind of leapfrogging. So I didn't like the fact that they were like, well, here are a lot of unknowns. We're going to try to figure it out. Here's all the info. In a case like this, I got to prioritize what I'm going to talk about. Like, am I going to talk about things that are genuinely, it's like, oh, these are plot elements that contradicts something, or maybe I didn't like them, or do I want to nitpick? Because there's a lot of nitpicks that I could do in here. I mean, I love Jean Luc Picard. He's one of the greatest characters in television of all time, among one of the greatest shows of all time. In the end, when he left Starfleet, this friend that he had 15 years ago, which she just kind of went on a bender and became estranged from her son, and he never checked up on her. It's like, but who's gonna grow these grapes in the vineyard? That's the important stuff. I mean, okay, I guess he just didn't care. I mean, is that a nitpick? Possibly. It's also a personality trait. But I like how the show dealt with Romulan lore. The Romulans essentially, they think they're being the good guys, which every villain is the hero in their own story. But the Romulans were always, the bad guys. They were on the other side of the war, the other side of the tension. And so it was like we never really knew much about them other than they were really militant and very strict. And they have a super secret organization called the Tal Shiar. That's what we knew, which actually it comes into play here. But we get a little more behind the scenes of the Romulans. Like there's a female order of super secret assassins. Like not Tal Shiar, but like ninjas or something. That's pretty sweet. It's a Borg cube. There's this Borg cube, which the Romulans call the artifact, which Hugh is in it. Hugh from the episode I, Borg. I've always liked Hugh. That's a classic episode. I was glad to see Hugh. Shit that he died, but I was glad to see Hugh. Because not only do we get behind the scenes of the Romulans, but you see more of the Borg as well. Because it started humanizing the Borg. You always knew the Borg, they're assimilated people. But if you get someone out of assimilation, if you unhook them and, they're human again, they remember everything, so they're still there. And when that kind of clicks with you, you're like, well, they are victims of the circumstance. They're victims of the hive. It's easy to see them as the scary cyborg space zombies, but I like the fact that it's like, no, they're people and we're trying to get them back. I thought that was neat. Though, what exactly did the cube do? Other than existing, other than, it's a Borg cube and Borg are cool. I thought it was going to play some huge role because this whole thing about like, well, synthetic life and maybe the Borg are going to play into it. Not really. At a point, even 7 and 9 hooks into it's like, we are Borg. She's like, I'm going to stage a coup. And they're like, yeah, open the airlock, just blow all the drones out into space. I was like, well, that did jack shit. So it didn't really serve anything other than being a pretty sweet thing that, well, got a few people to the end location before Mass Effect. And best I can assess is like, because I was like, what broke the Borg ship? And best I can figure is when all these Romulans got this vision of this apocalypse where synthetics are going to wipe out organics, then when those Romulans were assimilated into the Borg collective, that concept, that knowledge, it broke the Borg essentially. They were like, synthetics and organics, wait, we're both. Nope, not dealing with it. And it just cracked it and broke the cube. I guess. I don't know, the show's not really that clear on it, so I assume that's it. Which actually brings me to 7 and 9. I thought she was great. I liked where they brought 7 of 9. I liked where she was in this show. It just made sense to me. She's like this nomadic bounty hunter kind of person, and that made sense that she would be that. And she's less Borg because whereas in Voyager, she spent most of her life in the collective, she's been Borg most of her life. And now she's been human for most of her life. So it made sense that she was more human. It showed evolution with her. I mean, people in this show, they flip-flop a lot. This person's pissed at that person, and then they're totally cool with that person. She's like, I just murdered my colleague, lover, and probable boyfriend, but whatever, I can just fuck this guy. Also, pretty sure I got away with murder because no one cares I did it anymore. The captain I liked. We don't have Dash Rendar in a movie or a show. This dude's pretty much the closest we've gotten yet, which I laughed my ass off when Picard's like, I know Starfleet and you are Starfleet to the core. I was like, what about that guy is Starfleet? What is it, the big piece of shrapnel in his arm while he has a cigar in his mouth? Like, this, nothing. What? This guy should be in some hole-in-the-wall Mos Eisley spaceport with Boba Fett, getting all the Twi'lek chicks he can. Like, there's nothing Starfleet about him. Bit of a philosophical spirit as well, bit of a philosopher. I like that. That's what I like about him, He's that space pirate quality. You don't think you're gonna have a deep conversation with him. Then he'll hit you with the whole human beings define themselves by their own mortality and the fact that their lives end, which is a solid foreshadow, but you never know it's not a foreshadow. You're never like, I wonder if that's gonna boomerang back around. You know it will. But I like the fact that he has that vibe about him, but he's former Starfleet. Kind of reminded me, like, I don't know, Malcolm Reynolds from Firefly or something. He has that damage to him. Not saying this show is as good as Firefly or Mass Effect. I'm saying there's a similarity of some sort. There's actually the ship, the inside kind of reminded me of the Normandy as well. Also the fact that the crew doesn't really like each other at first, definitely not Star Trek, more Mass Effect. I also like seeing Will Riker because Will Riker's amazing. He's great. I like seeing where Will Riker and Deanna Troi were at this point. Though I will say, that monologue, that speech Will Riker gives Picard about how to be a father, because I guess Picard doesn't know how to be a father. That's bullshit. I wanted Picard to be like, motherfucker, I've been a father to 2, a grandfather to 1, I've been a father to a daughter, father to a son, and I was pretty good at it because the inner light happened. That episode's one of the best episodes of TNG ever. It's real. I'll teach you how to be a father. You can thank me later. Which is interesting. That makes me go like, did they watch Next Generation before they made this show? They actually... Bruce Maddox is the scientist who actually created Data's daughter in this show, or daughters. He's a pivotal character. That's a deep cut from season 2 of Next Generation. I think it's season 2. The episode's called Measure of a Man. Basically, Data's on trial for whether or not he is sentient. I'm glad they knew about him. They obviously don't know about the inner light, though. Also, people in the show don't ask questions. It's funny, because it's a mystery. They're supposed to. Not a lot of questions being asked. When the super spy, when O grabs the doctor's head and gives her this vision of this apocalypse, she's never once like, look, is this your fear? Or is this a memory? Like, what is this? Because, all right, well, I guess I believe you enough to kill my boyfriend. There's a scene where there's a tractor beam on the main ship and they just let them go. And the captain's like, sweet, they're not going to follow us at all. They just let us go because... I don't know, they're nice. I'm not gonna question it. Let's just go and definitely be followed. That was stupid. Even the whole plot revolves around a bunch of synthetics who snapped and killed everybody on Mars. And that stopped Federation production of any and all synthetics. All studies are out. Because I guess the Federation was like, well, we're just gonna write that one off as a big mistake. No investigation necessary. I get that there's a Romulan mole as the head of security in the Federation, but this is the biggest catastrophe in the solar system ever. That one person is able to roadblock the investigation. I feel like there'd be a lot more questions from the Federation Council. Let's just go ahead and not even ask questions. When I look at Picard, like there were a couple of times in the show where Picard is interacting, giving his thoughts, whatever he's doing. And I tried to, you know, put Picard from Next Generation in that situation to think like, how would he deal with this? And I think it is a bit different. Granted, he's older now. He's, I guess, a little more broken. Even when they find, you know, like, oh, that girl was being tracked and then she gave herself the shot, which neutralized it, but it sent her into a coma. They're all like, Picard, she's the spy. And he was like, well, we don't know that. It's like, all evidence is yeah, we do. I feel like old Picard would have been like, keep me informed, Beverly. He'd totally be open to the prospect and idea of that. He's probably like, look, I heard she digs men who are old enough to be her father. Look, I'm just, fingers crossed. So the main plot is they follow to this planet, and on this planet where Dr. Soong, I guess, has a son, which is kind of lame, to be honest with you. What, Dr. Soong had a son? Data and Lore. Well, and before, I guess, but that was, I always took that as Dr. Soong was like, I don't have children, so these are my children.
Dr. Alton Inigo Soong, mad scientist. My father had me, but he created Data. In fact, he never let me forget.
I would think this guy would be a bartender somewhere, be like, fuck robotics. My dad was a dick. I think this would have been a great opportunity to bring Lore back into it, to be honest with you, because the plot's kind of something we already saw with Lore in the 2-part episode called Descent, where Lore kind of took charge of this group of Borg. He was trying to wipe out the organic life and synthetics would rule all. Hey, that's the plot of Star Trek Picard. Why not bring Lore back? Because Lore's last words to Data were, I love you, brother. He could be like, I loved my brother, and Picard could be like, you're perverting everything he stood for, Lore. But on this planet, Data's daughter is going to be the Redeemer or the Destroyer, the Pawn or Messiah. Welcome, time-span soul. Welcome to your destiny. You either know it or you don't. But with a beam that shoots up to a portal and opens up a portal, these synthetics are gonna come through and just wipe out all organics in this galaxy. Oh, and it's happened before. This does sound familiar. It just cracked me up. At first, I was like, oh, Normandy vibes from the ship. Look at that. Then I was like, oh, this is Mass Effect. Which at that point, I have questions. I just do. Not that I have answers, I just have questions. When Dr. Soong was creating synthetic life, that would be Data, and Lore, though he never gets credit. Everyone always forgets about Lore. The Romulans were like, all right, we need someone in the Federation to basically stop that. Otherwise, synthetic life is gonna build and then this apocalypse is gonna come. So the Romulans are trying to stop this apocalypse. So as long as synthetics never hit that line, this apocalypse of Reapers are not gonna happen. But why have a 40-year plan to wipe out Mars to stop it? Like, the show pretty heavily emphasizes that no one could recreate Dr. Soong's work. Even the new synthetics are built off of a piece of Data's positronic matrix. So Data's really key, and Data's in Starfleet. You have a mole in Starfleet. You have a mole working in the same place that the only real synthetic you have to worry about, the key that's gonna trickle to everything, is. You have some pretty good access to him. I imagine O wasn't director of security yet. Sure, fine, but just be like, all right, Data, hey, let's hang out sometime. Yeah, let's just go down this really seedy alley. Just, all right, well, he's vaporized now. Guess I'm gonna go back to the Romulan Empire because my job here is clearly done. Bye. And now you have a much bigger problem to deal with because you were like, no, we're gonna wait. What? Why not just wait? In a world where Romulans with good intent can get to a Federation officer, kidnap her, and surgically alter her for their own scheme, I'm sure Romulans with bad intent, which I guess, like I said before, they see themselves as heroes. Anyhow, I'm pretty sure Romulans can get to Lieutenant Commander Data somehow if they really wanted to. I mean, that Romulan defector in the episode The Defector, he could have just been some spy and be like, oh, you're Lieutenant Commander. I vaporized him. You know what? I'm going to jail, I know, but it took one for the team, or take me to Federation jail. You guys, whatever. You're gonna put me in a cell anyway. You're not gonna execute me. I mean, if Agnes melted her boyfriend's cardiovascular system, I'm pretty sure any Romulan would have taken one for the team to vaporize Data. You know, in the end, this wasn't supposed to be a play-by-play of the plot or anything, so I'm not walking you to the end of the plot. But I gotta wrap up by saying, really, it's anytime there was something cool that I liked, there was the flip side of it that's like, yeah, but I don't like that. Like, example, it was amazing seeing Will Riker on the bridge of a ship again. That was great. I love the fact that Will came in to help Picard, who didn't actually ask him to do that. That shows how much Picard loves Will Riker. It shows how much Will Riker loves Picard. It was a great moment of friendship, and it was awesome to see Riker in uniform. However, the entire armada of Federation ships, they're all the same ship? Well, that seems kind of lazy. Why? I mean, production is why. That's exactly why. Easy to make one ship and then copy and paste, and now you have 100 ships, but they're all the same ship. I mean, could you have made 5 different ones and rotated them? Make it Anyhow, it just seemed kind of lazy. Also didn't like the weird device that fixes things with imagination. Because you could tell they were like, all right, well, how do we limp them along until the Federation gets there? Well, we got to make it look like there's a lot of ships going up against a lot of ships. How? There's only one ship. I don't know. We'll just make a device that can do it, I guess. All right, sweet. We made a device that'll pretty much make the Shredder fight from Ninja Turtles, the arcade game. And for the longest time in the show, I was like, I'm not really buying the whole Soji thing. It was because Soji and I don't know, what's his name? Fuckable Romulan guy. Romulan spy that everyone knew he was a spy because the show said he was a spy. But even in the show, Hugh sniffed out the fact that he's a spy. He's like, oh, you mean the spy? Yeah, I know he's a spy. Still hate that Hugh died. He was a favorite of mine from the series. Then I started appreciating the fact that Picard's there because this is the last remnant of his friend and he owes it to his friend to save the last piece of him. And I dug that, though it's like the inner light didn't happen. I didn't like that. And at the end, while she's gonna open a portal and wipe everyone out with the Reapers, she turns back because Picard's speech will stop anything in its tracks. A Picard speech, kittens and Skittles, not as effective on world peace as a good Picard speech. And I like the fact that he did have a good speech, and Picard does have lessons to throw out there. And the show actually had lessons about consciousness and individuality and what is life. And you are not your past, you're not where you come from, your life is your life to live, and if people are so lucky, they get to experience it with you. We are who we choose to be, also not acting out of fear, because all the Romulans, this whole thing is enacted out of fear. And when people act from a place of fear, bad things happen. Because like fear, anxiety, that fight or flight is supposed to be something that provokes you into action for that quick moment where you need to call 911. That moment where you need to take action to help someone, save something, save yourself, help yourself, get something done very quickly right now. But when you live there in that bubble of fear and anxiety and you make decisions from that, it usually doesn't lead to good things. So I actually enjoyed that the show had that. Picard has a brain condition, and so he dies at the end, and then he gets brought back as one of those basically Cylons from Battlestar Galactica. Human robots that for all intents and purposes are indistinguishable from humans, but I guess they're technically synthetic. Basically, the only thing that's different about them is that he doesn't have the brain thing anymore. He's gonna live as long as he would have, and he would have a real heart, not an artificial one anymore. So I was like, why'd you kill him just to bring him back? However, you do get a really heartfelt goodbye between Picard and Data. It's a nice goodbye, and it's a much better one. One that I would have preferred was in Star Trek Nemesis, but you didn't really get that. So for better or for worse, I appreciated that I got that between those two characters in here. He even plays Blue Skies from Star Trek Nemesis. Nice touch. So it's kind of a funny thing that happened with me in Star Trek Picard. I left Star Trek Picard, like I got done with it. I was immediately thinking about the things that didn't remind me of Next Generation and things that bothered me. But as I kept thinking about it, I appreciated more the things that I did enjoy about it. I don't think this show stuck all the landings or some, like I just recently mentioned, some plot lines where I was like, that doesn't really make sense to me. Some dialogue, I was like, oh, okay. Not Star Trek The Next Generation. I'll absolutely say that. Yeah, you can't go into this expecting Star Trek The Next Generation. I'm gonna get Star Trek The Next Generation back, you know, because Picard's in it, you can't do that. Some of the themes they touch on in Picard, they've already touched on in Next Generation.
Exactly. Is the definition of life cogito ergo sum? I think, therefore I am.
However, from Star Trek being made in 2020, I thought it would feel a lot worse. I enjoyed it more than I didn't. I do think that the show probably could have been half as long as it was. There's enough to enjoy as long as you know that you're not getting Next Generation. It's like by the end of this, Picard's a space pirate or something. It's like, and you know deep down he's always wanted to be a space pirate, and now he gets to be a space pirate of some sort. I mean, not an asshole, but just a little more nomadic. Like Picard on Serenity in the show Firefly or something. What are he and this ragtag crew? What are they gonna do? I don't know, but it's kind of a cool thought. So I'm interested. I just kind of want to see where they take this. A thing I do find strange is that they say fuck in here. I don't know why I find it so weird. You know, I don't give a fuck. You say whatever you want. I don't care about curse words. But I do care about continuity of universe. And that's new to Star Trek, and it feels different, you know? Like, James T. Kirk is like, oh, those colorful metaphors.
That's simply the way they talk in the 20th century. People don't notice you. You don't stand out in a crowd unless you swear every couple words.
Sheer fucking hubris.
Well, apparently that's how they talk in the 24th century, too. If you have people in a Star Trek story speaking differently than how people are used to them speaking, people aren't going to perceive it as Star Trek language. So it felt weird to me. All right, so Star Trek Picard, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Are you a Star Trek The Next Generation fan? Do you care? Do you not care? And if you're a Next Generation fan, what's your favorite episode or episodes? I'll start it out. Here we go. There's a lot. Best of Both Worlds, Inner Light, Tapestry, Chain of Command, Yesterday's Enterprise, Ship in a Bottle, Iborg, Relics. Too many to name, but those are a few. But whatever you think, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.